welcome to the Property Wealth Podcast. We're diving into a topic that many landlords dread, bad tenants.
Yeah, it's a tough subject, but it's also one we can learn a lot from.
Exactly. We've got some real stories to share, and more importantly, practical tips on how to prevent those situations from happening in the first place.
Right, and, it's not just about the horror stories. It's about understanding the signs and being proactive.
Totally. We'll explore how to screen tenants effectively, the importance of clear communication, and what to do if things go south.
And we'll also touch on some legal protections you can have in place, which, can really save you a lot of headaches down the road.
Yeah, that's crucial. So whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting out, there's something here for everyone to take away.
Absolutely. It's all about building that long-term wealth while minimizing risks.
So let's jump right in. Mike, can you share a story about a bad tenant experience you've had? I think it would really help set the stage for our listeners.
Sarah, when we talk about bad tenants, it's not just about the hassles. It's really about the bigger picture, especially for folks over 40.
Absolutely, Mike. I mean, many people in that age group are starting to think seriously about retirement, right?
Exactly. And if you've got a rental property, a bad tenant can really throw a wrench in those plans. You might be counting on that rental income to supplement your retirement, and suddenly, it's gone.
Right, and with inflation being what it is, that income becomes even more crucial. It's not just about the rent. It's about maintaining your lifestyle, ensuring you can afford the things you want to do when you retire.
And let's not forget about market shifts. Properties can appreciate significantly over time, or they can hold their value. But if you have a bad tenant, that can impact your property's marketability down the line.
Yeah, I've heard stories where investors have had to sell at a loss just to get out from under a bad tenant situation. It can be a real nightmare.
For sure. I remember talking to a friend of mine, let's call him Dave. He invested in a small multifamily property when he was in his late 40s, thinking it would be a great way to build wealth for his retirement. But he ended up with a tenant who was constantly late on rent and eventually stopped paying altogether.
That must have been so stressful for him.
It was. He had to go through the eviction process, which took months. And during that time, he was struggling to cover the mortgage payments himself.
That's a tough spot to be in, especially when retirement is looming.
Exactly. And what's worse is that Dave was hoping to pass this property on to his kids as part of their inheritance. But all that stress and financial strain, it really made him reconsider his plans.
It's so important to think about those long-term goals and how a bad tenant can derail them.
Right, and we're seeing this more often, especially with the current economic trends. With rising interest rates and inflation, many people are looking to real estate as a hedge against inflation. But if you end up with a bad tenant, that hedge can quickly turn into a liability.
And it's not just about the money, is it? It's also about peace of mind.
Absolutely. Financial security through property is about more than just numbers. It's about feeling secure and knowing that you've made smart investments. A bad tenant can cloud that peace of mind.
I've spoken to investors who say it's the emotional toll that really gets to them. The worry and stress, the uncertainty about the future.
Definitely. And let's not forget about the emotional side of wealth transfer. People want to pass down their assets to their family. But if those assets are tied up in bad tenant situations, it complicates everything.
Right. It's like you're trying to build a legacy, but it feels like it's crumbling in front of you.
Yeah. And the last thing anyone wants is to leave behind a mountain of stress for their loved ones. They want to be able to gift them something that provides security and a solid foundation for their future.
So, what can people over 40 do to protect themselves from these bad tenant scenarios?
Well, we'll get into specific strategies shortly, but one key thing is being proactive. It's about screening tenants properly, having clear leases, and knowing your rights as a landlord.
And I think it's also about setting clear expectations from the start.
Exactly. If tenants know what's expected of them, it creates a better environment for everyone involved.
Yeah, communication is everything. I've seen landlords who build good relationships with their tenants. It often leads to fewer problems down the line.
Right, and let's not forget about regular property maintenance. If your property is well cared for, tenants are more likely to treat it with respect.
That makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like a partnership, isn't it?
Absolutely. A good tenant-landlord relationship can be incredibly beneficial. It's all about creating a win-win situation.
So, Mike, what are some of the core strategies that you recommend to prevent these bad tenant situations?
Well, let's dive into that next. It's all about being prepared and informed and knowing how to navigate these waters wisely. So when we talk about bad tenants, it really helps to have some solid strategies in place, right?
Absolutely. I mean, having a plan can make all the difference. What would you say is the first rule of thumb when it comes to screening tenants?
Well, one of the most effective strategies is to use a thorough tenant screening process. You want to look at their credit history, rental history, and even conduct a background check.
Right, and it's not just about the numbers, is it? I mean, you want to hear their story as well.
Exactly. Sometimes a good conversation can reveal a lot. You can get a sense of their reliability and responsibility just by talking to them.
And what about income verification?
Oh, that's crucial. A good rule of thumb is to ensure that their monthly income is at least 3 times the rent. So if your rent is $1.500, they should ideally be making at least $4.500 a month.
That makes sense. And it helps protect you from those situations where a tenant might stretch their budget too thin.
Definitely. And let's not forget about the importance of references. Speaking to previous landlords can give you great insight into their behavior as tenants.
Right? It's like getting the inside scoop. What do you typically ask those previous landlords?
I usually ask about their payment history, how they maintain the property, and whether they followed the lease terms. It's all about getting a well-rounded view of the potential tenant.
That's a great approach. Now let's talk about the property itself. What are some key factors to consider when selecting a property to avoid bad tenants?
Well, location is everything. Ideally, you want to invest in areas with strong rental demand. Look for neighborhoods with good schools, amenities, and low crime rates.
So it's not just about the property, but the surrounding community too?
Exactly. A desirable location can attract better tenants. And then there's the property type. Single-family homes might attract families, while multifamily units could appeal to younger professionals.
Right, and that can influence the kind of tenants you attract as well.
And then there's the condition of the property. You want to make sure it's in good shape before renting it out. A well-maintained property tends to attract more responsible tenants.
So, is there a rule of thumb for how much you should invest in repairs?
A good guideline is the 1% rule. So if your property is worth $200,000, you should budget around $2,000 a year for maintenance and repairs.
That's a solid plan. And what about dealing with finances?
While financing options can vary quite a bit, but a common approach is to aim for a cap rate of at least 8%. That means if you buy a property for $200,000, you should expect to make $16,000 a year in net operating income.
So, that gives you a good indication of whether the investment is worth it or not, right?
Exactly. And don't forget about the 50% rule when budgeting expenses. It suggests that you should expect to spend about 50% of your rental income on operating expenses, which can help you plan accordingly.
That's a smart way to ensure you're not caught off guard.
Yeah, and once you have a property, having a good lease agreement is key. Make sure it clearly outlines expectations, responsibilities, and consequences for not following the rules.
So it's like setting the stage for what's acceptable and what's not.
Exactly. And don't shy away from including a clause about late payments or property maintenance.
That's a great point. It sets the tone from the beginning.
Right. Now let's talk about the importance of being proactive. Regular property inspections can help you keep an eye on things and catch potential issues before they spiral out of control.
And, it shows tenants that you care about maintaining the property, which can encourage them to respect it more.
Absolutely. And if you're ever in doubt about a tenant's behavior, trust your instincts. If something feels off during the screening process, it's often worth listening to that feeling.
That's so true. And it's better to wait for the right tenant than to rush into a lease with someone who might cause problems down the line.
Exactly. And speaking of problems, let's not forget that it's important to have an exit strategy. If a tenant isn't working out, you need to know how to handle that situation legally and effectively.
That's a good reminder. What are some common pitfalls investors face when it comes to dealing with tenants?
Well, one common pitfall is not having a clear eviction process in place. If you ever need to evict a tenant, you need to know the laws in your area and follow them closely.
Yeah, I can see how that could get complicated if you're not prepared.
Another pitfall is neglecting tenant communications. Keeping an open line can help prevent issues from escalating and maintain a positive relationship.
That's important. And sometimes just having a friendly chat can clear up any misunderstandings.
Exactly. And lastly, some investors underestimate the importance of having a solid property management plan, especially if they're managing multiple properties.
Right. A good property management system can save you a lot of headaches down the road.
Yep, and it allows you to focus on growing your portfolio instead of dealing with day-to-day tenant issues.
That's so true. It sounds like having a proactive mindset can really help prevent those bad tenant scenarios from happening in the first place.
Absolutely. It's all about setting yourself up for success from the beginning. You know, Sarah, one of the biggest pitfalls I see with new investors is over-leveraging. They get so excited about a property that they stretch their finances to the limit.
Yeah, I can imagine how tempting that must be. It's like, this is the best deal ever. But then you're left with this massive debt, right?
Exactly. I remember a client of mine, let's call him Dave. He found what he thought was a steal. It was a fixer-upper in a good neighborhood, but he didn't factor in the renovation cost properly. He ended up borrowing way more than he could comfortably pay back.
That sounds stressful. How did that play out for him?
Well, he quickly realized that the renovations were costing double what he'd initially budgeted. Plus, he couldn't find good tenants, so he was just bleeding money every month. It became this vicious cycle of stress.
That's tough. So what do you think he could have done differently?
There are a few things. First, he should have had a more conservative approach to financing. Maybe only borrow 70% of the property value instead of 90%. And he also needed to really crunch the numbers on potential cash flow.
Right. Cash flow is king, isn't it?
Absolutely. If you don't have that steady stream coming in, it can get overwhelming. Another common mistake is ignoring hidden costs. You know, things like property taxes, maintenance, or even management fees. They can really sneak up on you.
Yeah, I guess when you're focused on getting that initial deal, it's easy to overlook those ongoing expenses.
Definitely. I had another client. Let's call her Lisa. She bought a rental property but didn't account for the HOA fees, and they were a lot higher than she expected. It ate into her profits.
Oh no, did she find out too late?
Well, sort of. She got hit with a hefty bill after her first year and ended up having to raise rents, which made her tenants unhappy. It's crucial to do that due diligence up front.
So what would you say are some red flags to look out for early on?
Great question. For one, if a property has a history of high vacancy rates, that's a big red flag. It often means something's off with the location or the property itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about location, right?
Exactly. And then there are the tenant screening processes. If a potential tenant has a history of evictions or doesn't provide solid references, that's a warning sign.
Definitely. It's like you want to get tenants in, but you also want to make sure they're going to pay the rent and take care of the place.
Right. I've seen too many investors skip this step because they're in a rush to fill a vacancy. They think, oh, I'll just take anyone. And that can really backfire.
So true. What's a story you have about bad tenants?
Well, I had a property owner, let's call him Tom, who rented to a couple without doing a thorough background check. They seemed nice enough at first, but soon after moving in, they stopped paying rent within a couple of months.
That's frustrating. Did Tom have any recourse?
Yes, but it was a long and painful process. He had to go through the eviction process, which took months. In the meantime, he was paying the mortgage and utilities. It was a nightmare.
Wow, that's a tough lesson. So what's the takeaway here for listeners?
Always screen your tenants thoroughly. Check their credit, rental history, and income. It's better to wait a little longer for the right tenant than to rush and end up with a bad one.
Absolutely. And I guess timing the market can be another pitfall, right?
Yes, for sure. I've seen investors waiting for the perfect moment to buy, thinking prices will drop, and they just end up missing out on good opportunities.
That's a slippery slope. It's like trying to time the stock market.
Exactly. Instead, I always encourage investors to look for properties that fit their investment strategy, regardless of the market conditions.
That makes sense. Focus on the fundamentals rather than trying to predict the market.
Precisely. And sometimes it's about being proactive. If you see a property that fits your criteria, but maybe the market is a bit high, consider making a lower offer. You might be surprised.
Yeah, You never know unless you try. What about those hidden costs we mentioned earlier? How can investors prepare for those?
Well, I always advise having a contingency fund set aside. Something like 10 to 20% of the purchase price can help cover unexpected expenses.
That's great advice. It's like having a safety net.
Exactly. And, talking to other investors or joining local real estate groups can be incredibly helpful too. You can get insights on what to expect in your area.
That's a good point. Learning from others' experiences can really help avoid some of those pitfalls.
Right. And just remember, every investor has faced challenges at some point. It's part of the journey. What matters is how you respond to them.
So true, Mike. It's all about learning and growing, isn't it?
Absolutely. And if you do find yourself in a tough spot, there are always ways to recover. Whether it's renegotiating terms with your lender, adjusting your strategy, or even seeking help from professionals.
Yeah, there's always a path forward.
Exactly. It's about staying informed and adaptable. That's what builds long-term wealth.
Well said. So let's dive into the next steps and how our listeners can implement some of these strategies.
So, now that we've shared some stories about bad tenants and the lessons learned, let's dive into some immediate steps that our listeners can take right now to protect themselves.
Absolutely. It's all about taking action, right? So what's the first step they can take?
Well, the first thing I recommend is to really familiarize yourself with online resources. Websites like Zillow or Rentometer can give you a good idea of the rental market in your area. You can see what similar properties are renting for and, set your expectations accordingly.
That's a good point, especially for new investors who might not know what a fair rent looks like.
Exactly. And then there's the Bigger Pockets calculator. It's super useful for analyzing potential deals, allowing you to crunch the numbers before making any commitments. It helps you see if an investment makes sense financially.
I love that. And for those who are just starting out, they can also join local meetups or groups focused on real estate investing. Networking can really open up opportunities and provide support.
Right. Meeting experienced investors can help you learn from their successes and mistakes. Plus, you might find a mentor who can guide you through the process.
Speaking of learning, are there any books or podcasts you'd recommend for our listeners?
Oh, definitely! The book on rental property investing by Brandon Turner is a fantastic read. It covers everything from finding tenants to managing properties.
That sounds like a great resource. And what about podcasts?
Well, the Bigger Pockets podcast is a must-listen for anyone interested in real estate investing. They share real stories and have guests that discuss various aspects, including dealing with bad tenants.
Awesome. It's so important to keep learning. What about tools that can help with tenant screening?
Yes. Tenant screening services like TransUnion or Experian can provide credit reports and background checks, which are crucial for finding reliable tenants. You want to know who you're letting into your property, right?
Absolutely. It's all about minimizing risk, and I think having a solid lease agreement is key too.
Yes. Using templates from legal sites like Rocket Lawyer can help you draft a comprehensive lease that protects you and outlines expectations for tenants.
That's a great tip. And, starting small with habits can really set the tone for your investing journey.
Exactly. Even something like analyzing one deal per week can make a big difference over time. You'll get more comfortable with the numbers and learn to spot good opportunities.
And what about setting up a system for regular property checks?
Yes, definitely. Schedule periodic inspections, even if the tenant seems great. It helps maintain the property and can catch potential issues before they become bigger problems.
That's so true, and it's also a good way to build rapport with your tenants.
Right. A friendly check-in can make a huge difference, and it shows you care about the property and their living situation.
And if issues do arise, having a clear communication channel set up can help address problems quickly.
Totally. I recommend using apps like Cozy or Rentec Direct. They allow for easy communication, rent collection, and maintenance requests.
Those sound super helpful. It's all about making the process smoother for both you and your tenants.
Exactly. And don't forget about continuing education. Attend workshops or online courses on property management. The more you know, the better prepared you'll be.
That's a great point. Investing in yourself is just as important as investing in properties.
Right. And remember, it's okay to start where you are. You don't have to have everything figured out from the get-go.
That's so encouraging. Just taking those first steps can lead to bigger things down the road.
Yes. Small, consistent actions really build up over time. So those are some practical first steps. Now let's bring this all together. So as we wrap up, let's quickly recap some of the key takeaways from our chat about bad tenants, Sarah.
Yeah, definitely. One big takeaway is, the importance of thorough screening. Taking the time to check references and credit history can save you a lot of headaches down the road.
Absolutely. And then there's the importance of having a solid lease agreement. It really sets the expectations up front, right?
For sure. A clear lease can help prevent misunderstandings and give you legal backing if things go south.
And let's not forget about being proactive with communication. Keeping that line open can sometimes prevent issues before they escalate.
Right. And sometimes, even when you do everything right, you might still face challenges. So having a good support network, like a property manager or a mentor, can be invaluable.
Exactly, Sarah. And it's all part of the journey toward building that long-term wealth. Real estate investing isn't just about the property. It's also about the relationships and systems you put in place.
Yeah, it can feel daunting, but remember, every step is a step towards financial freedom. You've got the ability to create something lasting.
So if you found value in today's episode, we'd love it if you could like and subscribe and share your biggest takeaway or any questions you have in the comments. Plus, think of someone over 40 who's considering investing. This could really help them.
And don't forget, next time, we'll dive into something super important. Market crashes. How to survive and thrive. It's definitely a topic you won't want to miss.
Yeah, it's going to be a deep one, but super relevant for anyone navigating the market.
Thanks for joining us today. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. Keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.